So Bitcoin 100K Friday. As you know, Bitcoin trades 24/7 around the globe. We're going to talk a lot about, Mr. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy. You guys will see my positions, how I position myself with MicroStrategy. Did I make money? Did I lose money? You guys can figure that out shortly. I mean, Bitcoin is becoming mainstream, right? And this guy's turning out to be right. So the first topic that I'm going to talk about today is there are MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor wannabes out there, okay? But this week alone, about 8 or 9 different companies or corporations have taken the same route as MicroStrategy is doing and Michael Saylor doing. So what they're doing is they're choosing Bitcoin as a corporate treasury asset. You guys have to think about this a little bit, okay? I thought about it for a couple of days. Actually, I've been thinking about it for a few months, but I'm going like, what this guy is doing is either brilliant, when I say this guy, Michael Saylor, or he's the biggest gambler on the planet, which I'm going to talk about him specifically on the last segment that I'm going to do today. And what he's doing, what his playbook is, I fully understand the playbook, okay? I fully get it. But now, are there other companies, corporate entities, who are following in the footsteps of Michael Saylor? Well, the Bitcoin treasury adoption surges. Why? Well, not because they're listening to Michael Saylor, because it's making sense. I mean, these are not stupid people running these companies, right? They have MBAs, they're CFOs. I mean, they got to that stage or to that position in life because they're not lucky, right? I mean, we can say all we want about a lot of the executives of these companies, but let's hold off for a minute. So when adoption of Bitcoin as a treasury asset, which what MicroStrategy is doing through issuing convertible bonds and buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin as opposed to cash, okay? And it's accelerating now, okay? Yesterday alone, 7 public companies announced that they have bought or plan to buy Bitcoin for their treasury reserves. Now, you have a treasury reserve. What can you hold it in? Warren Buffett is in treasury bills, $325 billion of treasury bills. Apple has 180 billion in cash. Google has 80 billion in cash. Amazon has 100 billion in cash. Microsoft has 120 billion in cash. In fact, Michael Saylor is going to give a presentation in front of the Microsoft board coming up in a few days to adopt Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Meaning, if you're holding $100 billion in cash in 4% T-bills, which on a nominal after inflation is basically zero, okay, because our negative actually, because our inflation is running 6 or 7% a year, these companies are adopting a part of their cash holdings into Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Because you put it in there, right? Yes, it is fluctuating asset. Yes, it's I'm not saying it's not a non-volatile asset like cash, right? But maybe, obviously, not maybe, but definitely not as liquid as cash. We can grant that. But on a long-term basis, what has done better than Bitcoin? Bitcoin has averaged since its inception 140%. That includes the 60,000 down to 10,000, up to 50,000, down to 10,000, all those gyrations. In the last 12 years, it's 140% a year. I think going forward with the adoption of ETFs and everything else, the volatility is subsiding. I can see it. I can feel it, right? Just like what happened, if you guys watch me in previous videos, when Bitcoin was going sideways between April and October, this went on the last breakout, it went sideways for 6 months. It never did that before, right? What it did is it would just gyrate wildly. Well, there are reasons for that, which I'm going to get into shortly in the next couple of segments. And so a lot of these companies committing to purchasing 1 million in Bitcoin or more. Well, that's what Michael Saylor is doing into the billions, not millions. But imagine, what if Apple says, we have 180 billion in cash. We're going to take 10 billion of that and put it into Bitcoin. As it is, it's a finite asset anyway. Right? 21 million of these things exist. What happens? What do you guys think will happen to Bitcoin? right? And I'm not a perma bull. I understand the risks. I figured this out a while ago. That's why I have about 7 or 8% of my assets in Bitcoin. And I'm just going to hold on. I'm not going to trade it. Bitcoin is not a trading asset for me. I have enough 10,000 stocks that I can trade with. But what Bitcoin is just a buy and hold and keep it as it is. And if you want a dollar cost average, right? So we're at the doorstep of 100,000. I think over the weekend there's going to be an announcement that Michael Saylor bought another 50 to 60,000 Bitcoin between 92 and 96, 7,000, because he just issued another massive amount of convertible bond. FYI, the convertible bonds he's issuing are priced at 0%. He's not paying interest. People are throwing money at him because, MicroStrategy has become a proxy for Bitcoin. If you want to own Bitcoin, you can go buy Bitcoin itself. You can go buy the ETFs of Bitcoin. You can buy the 2x volatility or leverage Bitcoin. And I'm going to talk about that during the charts. But it's become a surrogate of Bitcoin. So if you buy MicroStrategy stock or the convertible bond, yes, you're not collecting interest, but at some point you can convert the shares. And if Bitcoin is 100,000 and MicroStrategy is at 430, right? There is something called in there called XNAV, net asset value, which I'm going to discuss in the next segment as well. But look, this is happening. You guys can say all you want. If corporate adoption happens of Bitcoin, even on companies like Apple's and Google's with billions and billions in cash. I know Warren Buffett's never going to buy Bitcoin. I get that. But there are other companies that are doing it. Marathon, which is a Bitcoin miner, they're doing it. They just issued $1 billion convertible bond to buy Bitcoin. I mean, look, people have figured this out. And last but not least on this subject, please, on the channel, there is an interview with a gentleman named Sonny Poe. Please go check it out. It's on Insiders of Wall Street. We talked about this a month ago before this last breakout. He did this exact same thing that Michael Saylor is doing with credit cards. You guys are going to say, oh, 30% interest on credit. No, he didn't do it like that. But you need to go check this interview out. You guys will learn a bit. This is something a lot of people can do. And he was brilliant the way he explained what he's doing. And I found him on X or Twitter. I'm on X. Please go, follow me there. And so that's the first segment. And I think the trend is leaving the building. And you're going to say, oh, I wait until it goes to 80,000 pullback, I'll buy it there. I'm like, no, just DCA. Buy it at 100 now. If it goes to 60 next month, buy it at 60. But over periods, over 12 years, Bitcoin return per annual return has been 140%. I think it's going to subside. I think volatility is going to decrease, which it's doing, I can tell. But then going forward, I think returns are going to be in the 20 to 30% range. And what's going to give you that, right? I'm not calling Bitcoin an inflation hedge, by the way. But what is going to give you that protection against debasing of the US dollar? What is it? Gold? Great. Go buy some gold as well. Real estate? Great. Go buy some. In that interview, I'll end this segment with that. Sonny said one sentence that just blew my mind. He says, Sergio, don't slave harder, save in hard assets, because the government is going to keep printing. And the only way you can protect yourself against that, because they're making the US dollar trash, literally toilet paper, okay? They're debasing the US dollar. There's a lot more of it. Inflation is killing the US dollar. So what is that? What is the protection? It's hard assets. Look at all the hard assets. Real estate, all-time high. Gold, all-time high. Bitcoin, all-time high. Stocks, all-time high, right? That's the only way you can protect yourself against what the government's doing, gaslighting you and saying, hey, everything is fine, don't worry about it. I'm like, no. Don't slave harder. Save in harder assets. And Bitcoin has become one.